In. Hello, my name is Katarina. Can you hear me and see me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Today we have Ved Prakash and Ranjan Melanta, data engineer at GitLab and senior solution engineer at Snowflake. They will share their knowledge on the topic of building a semantic AI layer in Snowflake, from trusted metrics to AI-powered insights. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Yep. Right. Yeah. Thanks, Katrina. Welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night to you, Ranjan. It's midnight for you over there. So yeah, thanks for joining. So yeah, today we're gonna explore how to leverage Snowflake AI capabilities to build intelligent semantic layer. By the end of this session, we are expecting that you get some understanding about Cortex, Snowflake Cortex, the AI functions, Cortex analyst, and having a building how to build an application throughout. Uh, and with this, we kick in. With me, Ranjan is joining from US, so we both are in. And just setting up a bit of ground rule, we will try to have a session for approximately 60 minutes. We will take break if required for 15 minutes, and we'll keep 10 minutes for Q&A. Please be muted. And if you have any question, want to stop me, ask a question during the class, or feel free to drop a message on the chat. Me or Ranjan will be responding it. The tutorial link, I have already put it in the Slack, in the chat window, where the labs is present. And the next is just enjoy the course. This is a small disclaimer from GitLab and from Snowflake. This anything represented is a personal opinion of the presenter. So just to keep us on the same page, and a small safe harbor and disclaimer from Snowflake for this. And with this, we start further. And are you all able to see the screen, right? Oh, sorry, it didn't. Ranjan, you're able to see the screen, correct? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So this is me. I am Ved Prakash, staff data engineer at GitLab, and your data superhero for the next 1 hour. I have spent over 15 years in data engineering trenches and have been this field transformed from back office to the front line of business strategy. My journey started at Infosys, where I spent over 11 years building data products for UK and US retail chains. For the past 4.5 years at GitLab, I have focused on what keeps me at night, that making our data platforms infrastructure scalable, reliable, and resilient. I work with the full stack, GCP, AWS, Snowflake, Python, Terraform, and dbt, whatever it takes to keep those pipeline flowing. Uh, my hope for today is simple, that you walk away with at least one valuable thing, whether it's an idea, a technology, or just an experience that clicks. Let's make this our count. With this, I will let Ranjan introduce himself and then we proceed further. Ranjan, over
Yeah.
to you.
Thank you, Ved. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Good morning, team, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at. A little bit about myself. I'm based out in the Bay Area. It's been almost a decade here in the United States. I came here for my master's with the specialization in data science and AI. More importantly, I'm presently working as a senior solution engineer. And what does a senior solution engineer do? I work with a lot of customers, try to understand their challenges, what they're facing, and how we try to resolve it. It doesn't have to be only with Snowflake, but it could be around with the solutions what we use. Uh, I have around 10 years of IT experiences, worked on different domains like technology, healthcare, supply chain, and so on. I have also worked on multiple different databases like SQL, NoSQL, relational databases. In prior to Snowflake, I was working at Oracle and DataStax. And like I said, feel free to stop us anytime, ask any questions. We're trying to make sure you understand the flow better here. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yes. The agenda for today is very, very simple. We would be starting with giving you a high-level overview of Snowflake. What is Snowflake? What makes Snowflake be a leader in the area? And more importantly, we'll go down into the challenges what we faced around the industry, and we'll talk about how are we addressing those challenges. Second thing, we'll come talk about the Cortex overview. Snowflake's being more towards the AI platform, so we'll talk about the Cortex overview. The third thing is in your present day world, when you're working with the AI solution, the most important thing is to having a semantic layer. and we will try to talk about the challenges and how we are addressing it. Diving deep into a little bit more with the AI SQL functions, not just with the structured or unstructured, but you can do a multi-modeling on the using AI functions. Ved will also walk you through the analyst deep dive. How does it flow? How does the flow work? What are the kinds of functionalities and features that are available out of the hat? And finally, we'll go to the hands-on lab. Uh, let's get started here. Before I start, I just want to take a step back, understanding or giving you an overview of where we are and why we are here. Snowflake was founded almost like a decade before. We had a recently like 5-year anniversary at the stock exchange. But more importantly, thinking back, the principles was very simple. How do we make the whole data process simple, easy, connected, and trusted? So over the last decade, we've been a leader in multiple different areas. So what's important is to understand what keeps us being a leader and how have we achieved it. And to address these challenges or these questions, the most important thing is the next slide, please. Snowflake's principle has been around three main pillars. And the three main pillars, like I said, how easy it is to manage your platform and how easily your teams could easily learn and build on top of it. Second, how can you join and share the resources? This doesn't have to be only data, it could be applications, it could be your ML platform, any of those things. How do you share it across your team? Third thing is, over all of these things, how can you provide an single layer of trusted and governance? Security being the most important area in the industry. So Snowflake is making it simpler, easier, as well as trusted at the same time. To talk more in detail with regards to that, let me take a step back and let me talk about a couple of things. This is the architecture at a high level. Let's go bottom up. The first thing which I want to make sure you understand here is it's cloud agnostic. What do we mean by that? Across the major three clouds, AWS, GCP, or Azure, you would still get the same kind of functionality. Uh, people can use people can use the cloud of their choice, and more importantly, there's a layer on top of it which is called a snow grid. This snow grid helps you to interconnect your environment, thereby automatically you do not have to worry about the global scale, you do not have to worry about the disaster recovery, you do not have to worry about any kind of challenges around maintaining and managing the system. Snowflake takes care of it for you. When we started, we were known as a data warehousing company, but we have evolved. What that means, we have gone ahead from a structured data to a unstructured to a semi-structured data, but now it's not limited to that. We also have support to iceberg tables as well as hybrid tables. That is our direction towards moving towards the OLTP side of the house. The most important thing around all of these things is the way how the data is stored. Data is stored in your cloud provider's object storage. It could be S3, it could be blob storage, or it could be GCS. Snowflake is built in such a way that you can try to work around with your data mesh, data lakehouse, or data warehouse use cases. So like I said, when we initially started, it was more of a warehouse, but now we have evolved, and you can try to run it across. Like a lot of customers have use cases around having a data mesh kind of architecture or a lakehouse kind of architecture, and we can support that. Um, we also started just with SQL, but now we can integrate with Java, Scala, and Python kind of APIs. Finally, the important layer which I'm going to talking about is the governance layer. What I'm going to talk here in regards to governance layer is how you can easily maintain and manage by taking care of all of your data available and how you can use it out of the box. Not just for data engineering, not just for data warehousing, we also have the AI, data security, analytics, application, and collaborations. These are all the kinds of use cases what a single platform can provide to you. And like I said, the hybrid tables is an add-on to that, which also provides you the solutions around OLTP. One thing which we do not have it here is our Postgres offering, which is also very important and which provides you a complete end-to-end flow from a transactional system to an analytical solutions and how we access from there. Let's move on to the next slide, please. Um, the important area between all of these things is Snowflake is split again around um, two main two main areas, I would say. One is the data platform. The second one is the connection or the content. So what do you mean by the data platform? It could be any kind of data, what you have, structured, semi-structured, unstructured. But more importantly, what we provide here is Uh, more importantly, what we provide here is we support various different workloads, languages, and runtimes on a common data foundation platform. And the next important thing here is what we make it very simpler and easier for your users. This is a high level overview of the architecture. When we thought about the overall platform, people the one major differentiator is how we separate compute and storage. And what happens when we separate compute and storage? You do not have to compete for resources. This makes it a very unique proposition. You do not have to worry about multiple engines to do your data engineering, data analytics, or different platforms. Everything can be done in a single place. I mentioned about the snow grid, where you do not have to worry about a single cloud. You can connect to multiple cloud very simply, easy, and fast. Finally, the managed services and the governance, which I also already spoken about. So this provides you end-to-end platform as Snowflake as a solution, and how we make it very simpler and easier. One last side before I pass it on. We have always seen disruptions. What we mean by that is disruption is an underlying problem. When we started with an on-premise, cloud, multi-cloud. What is next? So one thing you need to be thinking when you build a solution is, how do you think for disruptions? Is your architecture built for any kind of disruption, or is it able to rapidly iterate and give you the solutions what you're looking for? Having said that, I'll pass it on to Ved to go in detail with regards to some of the functionalities and features which are available. Thank you.
Thanks, Ranjan. So, yeah, thanks for that overview on the Snowflake. So, moving next, so we'll talk about today's tutorial. So, what's the challenge? What's the challenge? What people face in the current in the traditional data access? The business user need insights but lack SQL skills. So, basically, the people those who wants to see the dashboards or the actual metrics are the people those who are not expert in SQL. Our data team is always overrun with repetitive queries, same questions being asked by 10 different people. Yes, we can prepare a dashboard, but yes, there is always some tweak which is required. Inconsistent metric definition across the team. That's basically that our sales team is something which is the whole sale or even what is booked for them as a revenue, whereas the sales for a revenue to finance team is that whatever the invoice has been encashed. So that's the so difference metric across different teams. That's a big challenge as well, which is one of the big traditional data access. And long time to insight for business questions. So if a request is being raised, this is what the flows, right? A user raises a ticket. It's a pretty standard. A ticket goes to the data team. They write a SQL, and then the result is being published and is being shared. So this is more of a traditional approach. This creates a bottlenecks and delays. All right. Different teams may calculate the same metrics differently, and we need a self-service solution with governance. So moving next, what's the how to solve this? Limitation of traditional BI is there, and what is our solution and how do we solve it? With us, how we have solved is that we have solved it using the tooling provided from Snowflake called the Snowflake Cortex. And with what is a Snowflake Cortex? The next question comes is so Cortex is a Snowflake built-in AI/ML engine, bringing LLMs and vector intelligence directly to your data. So no data movement required. That's a very key point, that everything happened within your Snowflake environment, that the data is not moving out of your Snowflake data warehouse, which can be sensitive data, non-sensitive data, finance, revenue, any kind of data set. Cortex lets you apply natural language, embeddings, and reasoning inside a Snowflake itself. Think of it as a Snowflake AI fabric, basically connecting a structured data and unstructured data with a Snowflake intelligence inside it. Cortex brings AI directly to your data warehouse. So that's one big thing, because we don't have to go right now. Most of the industries, what we are seeing is that the data is sitting somewhere, but the AI application or the LLM is sitting outside. The data has to move from data warehouse or any data store where it is stored to the AI functions to be called. Data never leaves. So in that case with Snowflake, it never leaves. So it's crucial for security and compliance for most of the organization. No need to export the data to the external AI services. We can leverage multiple LLM models and within a Snowflake with simple query chain, simple just calling the model itself within your selector statement. We'll see it down in the further slides. It makes life much more easier. And one of the big thing that you don't have to invest upfront heavily. You always pay for what you use. No upfront ML infrastructure cost to do it. With this, if we look at the Snowflake Cortex AI architecture, it's a combination of both governance, different models, and if we look the initial architecture which Ranjan showed, the data which sits in your data warehouse and how the data comes through data connectors, through Fivetran and Stitch, however you bring the data to Snowflake. And then you have multi-model data coming from external sources, Sheets, Google Sheets, and everything gets loaded inside it. And what in the cortex, what is present, what's all things are present. So we have a cortex search which deals with unstructured data retrieval. We have cortex analyst which is very good at working with the structured data retrieval and the processing. We have document AI and parse embedding document processing for the AI. And then comes the within the same cortex AI, the other thing which comes up is the Snowflake intelligence, which is an agent app, a Cortex agent, which is an agent-based API which you can integrate with your application, and Cortex AI SQL, which is a multi-model AI-powered SQL where you can modify or change the models whichever you want to. For example, OpenAI ChatGPT 4 or Anthropic Claude 4.5, or you name it, they have it. So if you look at, there is a detailed page which will share it where we have. But with this, one major thing which comes up is the governance, that it is a fully secure AI feature adhered to a standard security program for a Snowflake service designed to protect the confidentiality and integrity of your data. So that's one of the big thing which Snowflake promise and does it. No training on your data set. So all of this models, whatever is being built, it's not being trained on your data. It never leases, the data never leaves your warehouse or leaves the Snowflake. No request to third party services, and your that's one of the big thing on that. And no commingling of data, that is like AI service isolates customer data at software level itself, so no data is ever mixed with that of another Snowflake customer. So this data isolation and all makes this whole Cortex architecture much more secure and governed, and that's one of the key thing which everyone is trying to adhere to, that our data is safe or not in today's world. Moving further, when we talk about Cortex, Cortex is the name, but there are lots of other function which is present in the Cortex family. So if you look at the Cortex function which is comes inside is the Cortex complete, which is LLM interface for text and SQL summaries. For example for use like summarize quarterly sales. It's an interface and we use it using Cortex complete within our SQL statement. Cortex search is works with the unstructured data. It's a vector search for embedding semantic search on the documentation. Cortex analyst, it's said it's particularly meant for structured data sets. It's a natural language analytics on your data. And this will be our focus for this particular tutorial as well. For example, lots of end user wants to ask simple questions. Show me revenue by reason for a particular product. Cortex classify, this is used for the text classification. For example, label support tickets, what we receive from the organization. And Cortex embedded text is generate embedding like built vector DB for retrieval. With this, we will be moving further with her and dive into the Cortex AI function first, and then we move towards Cortex analyst. So Cortex AI functions. It is a built-in Snowflake built-in AI ML capabilities. And it's a AI function, a serverless, fully managed function that brings advanced AI and machine learning capabilities directly into your SQL queries. So no infrastructure setup is required. As said, in the very start itself, there is no upfront investment for any AI ML capabilities when you want to do it in Snowflake. No model training on deployment needed. That's one of the big benefit. Seamlessly integrates with SQL. Pay only for what you use, so there is no upfront cost. So you can always start small, evaluate, and see that what's value, and then you expand it as we go. So always the key in the world of AI when you're thinking about talking to your data, we should always start small, iterate, see the result, improve the semantic layer, semantics, and make the value much more, bring the accuracy higher and higher. And then you expand on the same frame to the other, expand it to the other domain, like target sales, target revenue, or target people ops, or whichever domain you want to target, you can target one, but we'll start small. And one big thing of the Cortex AI function is that instant access to the state-of-the-art LLM function. Like you have access as a model gets released, like GPT-5 or Cloud 4.8 and comes from Anthropic or DeepSeek. Everything gets integrated into Snowflake. Like it releases fast from than what we are saying or giving a tutorial. So you can see that today there is one model which is present and the new one has been released. The very next in an hour or 4 hours, it gets present in the Snowflake. Looking at the Cortex AI function, it's we have like six of them on a very high level, but there are a lot to this. This is just on a high level to just to give a overview of this. We have Cortex AI function which basically used to generate the text completing using LLMs like Mistral, Llama, or uh, Anthropic cloud this. Another one is sentiment, which is used to analyze the sentiment in the text like positive, negative, or neutral. One is which is heavily used at us is summarize to summarize the whole. Suppose you have an issue or a ticket or which has like lots of comments and you want to summarize it, that okay, what's the summary of this whole discussion which has been like a 10 pages discussion happening. Cortex AI function can do that very well for you. Extract the answers from the text based on the questions, translate the text between multiple language. You are an expert in your language like English and you are getting a text document which is in another language natively written in Dutch or in French. Translate can help you to translate that. Classified text is categorized text into the predefined classes. Some example to this for sentiment analysis, as I said, Cortex AI function is embedded inside your SQL, so you don't even have to go and write an interface and build an interface to make it chat. You can directly use it within on your tables, on your data. So this, the first example over here is select review text. That's particular column present in your customer service table, for example, and you're asking Cortex sentiment to tell me the sentiment to score of each of this review feedback what we have got. It is as simple as that. It uses the Llama or Mistral under the hood and gets you the sentiment on that. Text generation, which is basically again just saying that use this particular language model, write a product description for an eco-friendly water bottle, and it gives you a generated embedded text based on your input prompt what you have provided. Summarizing long document. Again, it's at over here we are saying summarize the whole text which is present. So you don't have to the data sits in your table, you're writing a SQL and you define that how big that summary should be and it takes care of this. One pro tip which comes to this, that combine multiple Cortex function in a single query to build up more powerful AI driven data pipelines. That's something which is in use at this point of time. We are using it in a different aspect of that flavor. We're to drive further, we will dive further into the Snowflake Cortex. And what is the Cortex analyst? We are talking about Snowflake Cortex and we are going into the Cortex analyst. And this is the topic of discussion for this whole tutorial. We'll be talking around this. This word you will be hearing throughout the tutorial on this. Cortex Analyst is a Snowflake built-in AI semantic query engine that enables natural language analytics directly on your governed data, powered by a semantic model that defines metrics, relationship, business entities. It is a layer which it's like giving your warehouse a semantic brain, one that speaks business languages. It's a intelligence layer that sits on your schema, your metric definitions, and translate natural questions into a SQL. For example, it's a basically on a very high level, it's a bridging the data and the language. Question is natural language question is what is the total revenue for this month? Cortex analyst is the brain which looks at your semantic model, understand what column is meant to be the revenue and what column is meant to be the date, and it builds the query which it execute against your data, converts your natural language question into a trusted SQL using the semantic model which is prepared, and then gives you the results back. But it doesn't just give you the result back, but it also shares you the query what it has executed against the data warehouse, against your database. What it does on a high level, it converts your business question to SQL queries. While converting the SQL queries, it uses your semantic model, which is the YAML definition file, which we'll see in the lab how it gets, what it contains, but in the further slides as well. Returned a structured result plus the generated SQL and maintains governance and security. So if someone is trying to access the data, trying to run a prompt and say that access the data which they don't have an access, it is being governed. And it's being a complete. So if these are the edge cases where people try to access something unknowingly, unintentionally, which they are not supposed to, this is being taken inbuilt by the RBAC policy, what is present in the Snowflake. It's completely. And the example question for this was like, what were my top 5 products by revenue last quarter? So what it does that it understand that what is the last quarter means. Is it 3 months of the quarter, or it starts from January to March, or it's a different quarter, which is where we have a 13 months financial year somewhere. So it understand that. And if we look at the process flow, the semantic model is basically the brain of the whole system. If you look, the YAML file which is there is basically maps the business concepts to database objects. For example, revenue maps to sum of quantity into unit price. So it says that the total, if people are asking about revenue, then the number of quantity being sold into multiply it into unit price. So that is a definition which is present in your semantic model. The better the model, the results gets better over there. And one good thing that you can also version control this whole YAML file and update to model immediately available to the user. So as soon as you update the model, the end results changes drastically. And this is how, on a high level, the models looks like. The YAML semantic model, it contains like a name of the identifier or semantic model, like in the database or a schema definition, physical tables, what it is, what exactly exists, column definitions. Each column gets a business-friendly names and description where suppose a customer ID can be called a member ID, can be called just an ID into the system. Same column has a 10 different synonyms, and these all are basically the context which has to be provided to the semantic model. So when a user asks, give me all the users which has a bought this particular product in this region, that's an example, then it understand that they are talking about customer ID like that. Measures like basically the calculated metrics is a predefined calculation like some average like that. So that something is already done. How the table joins. So since it is a multi in a warehouse, we have mostly like a star schema or Snowflake schema. It also be it's good to explain that on what primary key the two dimensions or it interacts with the fact in order to get this whole concrete result and better accuracy. Verified queries are basically a set of sample question which is being said that this particular application which is being built, which is using the semantic, this kind of sample questions can be asked, which helps the Cortex to understand, analysts to understand that for this question, these are this query has been executed, and that query gets feedback to the LLM to say that, okay, use this. If this similar type of query is coming, it helps them to think further on this. Filters, which is a default filter like only current year data. So we don't want the user to have a look and exponentially raise your cost. You can limit the filter that, okay, these much data only when a question is being asked, you have to look for. You don't go back for 20 years or 30 years back. Moving to further, like what is a semantic layer? We are talking about semantic model, a semantic model, what it is. So it is nothing but a business-friendly abstraction layer that sits between raw data and the end users. It's a The key benefit for this is it's a single source of truth for metrics. Natural language interface, governance and security is built in, and it is a self-service analytics. Think this as like more of like a translation layer between business languages and database languages. User asks, what were our top selling product last quarter? The example what we saw and seen in the last slide. Instead of writing sequels, the semantic layer ensures that it uses the same calculation for top selling products in terms of revenue and get that this. And a Snowflake approach integrates this AI natively with your data. So that's what the semantic layer helps to do it. And if you look at the components of the semantic layer, we saw the YAML file where we said that we define the data model, which is basically the table, relationship, joins, metrics, the predefined, a standardized calculation like revenue, profit, margin, churn rate, like those. Dimensions, ways to break down the data by region, by product, by time. Natural language interface, the AI magic that understands show me sales. And governance, which is the security policies, ensure data access compliance. This is on a high level. If you look at the diagram, on the left hand side you have the data sources. It can be Zora, Salesforce, Zendex, your application or data sources, and then the connector which brings data to the data layer, and then you have a transformation tool whichever you're using. Like for in our case we use dbt. This semantic layer sets view sits on top of that. And on top of the semantic layer view, we have this all the enterprise application use cases like AI or ML tools, BI tools, or plus data apps, or SQL analyst, or we share the data. That's the last one of the feature which comes with the Snowflake. But on the right, if you look at the data catalog, the whole thing is being cataloged, right? Even the models, the views, and everything. And that is a proper vertical that starts from the data layer and it goes to the final top layer of the AI and ML tools itself. So semantic model in Cortex Analyst is it is like a logical layer that map business meaning to your Snowflake schema. It bridges the gap between user language and technical schema. Example, business terms like revenue versus physical column, which is revenue underscore amount. That's the column which is present in your source table. And that has to be converted to a revenue. And how will a model will know much more accuracy is when it gets been told that, okay, this column has this particular context also. Few best practices when we are talking about a semantic model that use clear names. Example, customer name, not use cust underscore nm underscore text like that. Description helps the LLM to understand the context, so it is used for enhancing the clarity and the context. Includes sample queries, aids in query testing and validations, and it improves the accuracy significantly. That's one of the very key thing for to do. Define common metrics, facilitate consistent measurements and analysis. Document the whole relationship, clarify data connections and dependency. Avoid technical jargons, prevent confusion, and promotes inclusivity. Ensure column descriptions, maintain data integrity. So that's something column description again goes to the same detailed description, but ensure to have it. Simplify the model by reduce complexity and improving the efficiency, and test your queries. So more you validate your data accuracy with the queries, those queries can be fed back to the verified queries. And last few more slides, and then we pass to the lab, which we are waiting for. So governance and security features within the Cortex Analyst it comes with the inbuilt row level security. So security is inherited directly from Snowflake. Access controls are applied at the column level. So we have the column level also. A data masking policy, if you have present on your database, it applies also to your model, your Cortex Analyst. So if a user has a masking policy that I cannot see, salesperson do not have to see the salary for an employee, which is also a data sitting in the warehouse, that data is being masked. That policy also applies to this Cortex Analyst. You get all the query history and lineage of the queries which has been tracked. So every query which you execute and every prompt which you do, it is being tracked, and no direct table access is required for this. So a user have an access, they don't have to query directly. And so if you have a Streamlit application and the user has that, they don't have to log into Snowflake to see it. Some real world use cases for this, the Cortex analyst is like sales analytics people mostly have top performers this quarter. Customer support average resolution time by category, get me all. These are like, for this we have to go and write a whole set of queries if we are have to do it manually, but this is being done if you have built your semantic layer good. It helps to answer these questions immediately. The finance is like revenue varies versus forecast, and so on. The common thread between all is that business users self-serve without SQL. That's the common thread. They all want to get the answer instantly. The data team is much more focused on model maintenance and not on queries and supporting this ad hoc. And question can be asked in Slack or custom apps, or it can be integrated through an application. And with this, I will be passing it on to Ranjan. We have a lab, upcoming lab, and what we will build that will build a semantic model over a sample financial data and a small streamlet in a Snowflake app with a conversational interface to Cortex Analyst.
Thank you, Ved.
Yeah.
Thank you, team. So before we start, um, the crux of it is very simple. What we're trying to show you here is you have your data. In this scenario, we're bringing some of those data from outside. But if you have your data in Snowflake, within less than 20 minutes, we can go ahead and tap into your data and ask questions like what Ved mentioned. We are trying to make sure it is very simple, easy, with very minimal knowledge. I'm going to walk you through now, and we will be able to get insights from the data. So talking to your data is what we're trying to show here. As a first step, we have the Git installed here. With has created a document. When we click on this link, if you stop sharing with, I can start sharing my screen. Thank you. Let me know if you guys can see my screen. Um, can you see my screen?
Yes, Ranjan, you can see.
We're seeing my presentation, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, let's so we clicking on the link, it brings you to the GitLab page, and this is going to be the page. The most important thing, or the first thing, what we need is we have all the informations available here, and this is all what Ved mentioned. What is Cortex Analyst? What are the functionalities? How you use? Um, if if you want to clone the file, you can go ahead and do a clone. You can do a zip file. You can get all the informations. The first important thing is you have to click on this one, and this is how you can get a free trial account. What is a free trial account? It comes with the 30 days, worth $400 of usage. You can go ahead, access it, and you can start using it from there. The next important thing is this is an optional thing. If you want to create a virtual environment, you could do that. And I'll show you what are we trying to do here today. Most importantly, um, this is how your instance is gonna look like when you log in. After that initial login, this is the place where you will be looking at it. This has projects which tells you that I'll give you 2 minutes overview of this. Then I'll come down to how you can build the analytics layer, what Ved has mentioned. So these are all the worksheets what we have, worksheets, notebooks, Streamlit applications. If you want to create dashboards, you can create it here. You can also add ingestion using OpenFlow. OpenFlow is a way how we can ingest data from various different sources out of the box. Similarly, we have transformations using DBT projects, dynamic tables, and tasks, and so on. This is very interesting, and I'll just click on this. When I say AI and ML, there are two ways how you can create it. You can let it through do everything through a command line, or I can simply go ahead, click on this Cortex Analyst, and I can try to access it from there. I can also, so it's very simple here. I'm just going to show you here. I'm not going to do that. You can choose a view or a semantic model. You can create a new one, and then you can build from there. And we'll walk you through that. So this is AI ML Studio, and we keep talking about governance. This is the most important thing I think you need to know. One is we have a catalog which helps you explore, and I mentioned there are two aspects to Snowflake. One is the data, the other one is the accessing. So catalog, data sharing, and governance. So you can set the roles, you can make sure you can set the policies, you can choose how you want to use it overall. The next important thing is the compute. Compute are your similar to your EC2 machines, or it's basically the compute instance, and Snowflake calls it as warehouse. So you can choose this compute warehouses, how you want to run it. The next important thing is as an administrator, I'm an admin here. As an administrator, you have options to access the cost management. You can go into depth and details of that. That is a high level overview. Please pause and ask any questions. So the first step what we're doing here is we have this SQL file. I'm gonna go to that my screen. I'm going ahead and creating it. And let's go ahead. I've copied it already. So I'm gonna come down here and say projects, worksheets. And if I come down here, I'm gonna choose the first one is lab. The most important thing, what I'm doing here, I'll tell you here quickly, and then we'll go down. Very simple. I create, we have a standard set of roles like security admin, user admin, account admin, and so on. So we use security admin to create a role, grant database role, and you grant the role to the specific user, whatever you have created. Following up, we create a database and you create a schema, you create a warehouse, and this is what Ved was mentioning. You pay for what you use, kind of a model. What does it mean? You can set the auto suspend and auto resume. If you're not using it, you can go ahead and suspend it when it's not used. That is the beauty of Snowflake for people who do not know that. You give the grants. This basically tells you that how you can control who gets access to the data and who gets to see the information. Similarly, you use the roles, you use the database, use schema. This is setting up the context. There is two ways to set up context. I'll show you when I run that, as well as you can see here that I can go ahead here and set the context here. I create a stage, I create tables, very simple, straightforward. I create tables and then I do an integration. This is an integrations how I'm trying to connect to this GitLab Ninja page. So using Snowflake, I'm doing a Git integrations and an API integration here, and I create a Git repository inside this folder. I'll also walk you through that, and let's go through this thing quickly. So let me quickly go ahead and I can take one of this and I can go ahead and say start here, run all. So it runs it. It runs all this information. So it's creating now database. If you see here on the top, it keeps on changing individually. It's creating everything here. Again, I repeat here what I'm doing here. I'm creating roles. I'm granting the roles. I'm creating database. I'm creating database and then I'm trying to create the tables what would be used. So this is the GitLab POC database which we created, the Cortex Analyst demo POC which we created. This is the Git repo. This is where it pointed to Git repositories. If I click on this and if I come over here, so one thing what we have done here right now is from Snowflake, you're able to see your repositories. What are the files you have there and how you can access it easily. So all these files, what I was able to connect from Snowflake to Git repository. All these files which we have here, I can access it from Snowflake right now. One step easier. The second thing is I have created revenue time series database that is over here. I created a revenue services database here. Schema database is Cortex Analyst demo, and this is the schema what I've created revenue time series. I go to revenue time series, created the tables, daily revenue, product dimension, and region dimension. Then I go to stages. I've created raw data. So what we do when we typically in your scenarios, you would have the data already available in your tables. In our scenario here, we are trying to ingest the data for revenue, the product, and region, and then we'll go ahead and ask questions on top of it. So coming down here, we are done with the first step of running the lab setup, where we ran the Snowflake environment. And once we're done with that, we are ingesting the data here. And this data, what I've done is I've cloned the information. So I'll go ahead and there are three files: CSV file, region CSV file, and product CSV file. And all three of these files, there are different ways to ingest it. You can go to ingestion, add data, or you can go to catalog and ingest data also. So let's go over here. I come over here, ingestion, I go to add data. I can choose load data into table. In this case, I'm loading data into stage. And this is also Snowflake stage. So I come over here, I choose the databases. I choose called as Cortex Analyst Demo. Then I choose this database and I can see here that what is the database. I've chosen it here. I've chosen the schema. I'm just giving, we created a schema already. But in this case, if I just have to upload it, I can just go ahead and add it to that. So it also gives you a SQL preview of if I have to say, mm, I'm going to give you here sample stage. And I created a sample stage here. I created a server-side encryption. It gives me how does it look like, how does the client look like. So I create it. I create a stage. I'm going to just show you here what does this says insufficient privileges because I'm creating the revenue time series using Cortex admin role. That's a good point to show you here that this is more like a role based. Not everyone can access it, what you created. So I go one step further. I take the Cortex user role and then I go ahead and create a stage, the user, sample stage, and I see client side. I've chosen this schema, database and schema, and then I go ahead create. It creates a stage here now. The first time I did not get created because it was a role-based issue. So what I've done here, I go here, I choose that data, and I use these things and I load data into the files. And in my scenario here, so I've created a stage. Let me go back to the catalog where we see the databases, and I go to Cortex Analyst demo, and I see here that in revenue series, the stages, there are two stages. One I'd already created, the other one is a sample stage. There are two ways how you can load data. You can come over to sample stage and you can say add files here. I can choose the files what I need. I come onto my instance and I select a specific kind of files and I can load it onto that. A moment here. So I have to look at here.
Yeah, you are on the right for the semantic AI, not that one.
Yeah, but it's a zip file, so I had unzipped
No,
it.
no, no. Down there is a unzip file.
Where is
Semantic,
it?
the blue color one. Yeah, first one. Yeah. And
Yeah,
data.
so here if you see here that I can see that different files are available. In my scenario, I'm going to do a very simple thing. I go to data and I take these three files here. I take all these three files and I upload it here. I'm showing you the process how you can do that. I upload it onto the sample stage. I do that here. Similarly, I also have another file called as the semantic file, and that is outside of it, the YAML file. I'll walk you through what it is. So this is the YAML file is a semantic layer, and this can be, in this case, we are giving you the file to upload and use it, but typically you can go ahead and create it out of the box from scratch, and this doesn't take more than 15 minutes for you to create the semantic YAML file or the semantic view. So what we have done, we have created the files, we have added these things, and the next important thing is I'm going to go to the next thing and I'll go ahead and create you you loaded the data into stage right now. You loaded the data into stage. So I'm going to take one step further here now. I'm going to come over here, duplicate this. I have these files. Where do I have projects, worksheets, and lab page two? So here what I'm doing, I'm using those roles to upload it. You saw that I was not able to do that. I use this specific roles. When I use those roles, it gets created here. Now I'm loading data. The daily revenue CSV file is been loaded into this particular table from this particular stage. I created two stages. So this is the raw data stage as well as the sample stage. So I can create it. I give these files and the data gets loaded from the CSV into tables.
I
And
think we'll have to modify the stage, right?
yeah, no,
Because
I'm not going to do that right now because I already have loaded, but I'm showing you that how you can create it here. Uh, in this case, in this scenario, what I showed you here is that if I come over here, revenue series, I have stages, I have a raw data stage. I've already, uh,
I think you cleared up, you created the whole environment. So,
perfect, that's good.
so we
That's
need
even
to
better.
upload.
So I go ahead and create it here. So I'm going to bring all of those files here. Um, um, okay, this is good. I create these files here. I upload this thing here now. This is good. The second thing here is now I come over here for the files. I browse the file. So I've added all of those files, revenue time series, and I create it here. So these are all the files what I've created. I've added these files here. Do we have, there is no data here right now. This is a good thing with Snowflake. When you come to a table, you can see here that how many number of rows do you have, what is the bytes you have on this thing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm first quickly taking this particular file from revenue time series and I'm running this thing here. When I run this, it gives you information that 730 rows have been uploaded and are there any kind of errors seen. So it gives you a complete set of information. Similarly, I go ahead, I create the product dimension. I create the region dimension. So these are the three types of tables what I create. Once I create it, I create a search service on a particular column on a product dimension. So for a particular column, I create a search indexing on top of it. So so that you can query on top of that search index. So let's go ahead and create it. I have run all of these things here. So once I run this, now let's come back here. And if you see here, if I go ahead and refresh this, I had these tables here. Let's give it a moment. The data is loaded right now into these particular
You
tables.
need to refresh the page, I think so. We
Yeah.
don't have that refresh yet.
But irrespective, what I'm trying to show you here is the data is loaded into this particular table and you can access it. That's step two. What we have done so far, we have gotten data from your place, from wherever you have that information. It could be as simple as an Excel and asking questions on top of that. So we have brought the data into stage. From stage, we wrote it into a Snowflake table. And then the next important thing is you do that Cortex search integrations. And finally, you build you build a streamlit applications and ask questions on top of it. So let me go up here. So now when I create this thing, so I've run all of these things. Uh, don't worry, let's go over here. There are a lot more informations here which can further give you, like I can go ahead and describe table and I can ask further questions on top of that. But one important thing which I want to show you here is if I come down to projects, there is something called a streamlet. And this is a place where I can choose the role. Based on the role, I go to Cortex user role and I see here that are there any kind of Streamlit applications available. I can simply create it from a repository or I can go ahead and click it from here. I can give the name and I can build it myself. What is Streamlit? Streamlit is an UI which is completely based out of Python. You can go ahead and choose and run your application on top of it. So I'm going to say it as tutorial DSC. So I'm just going to give it a plate here. I choose the database, I choose the schema here, and then I go ahead and select here, come down here, um, create, hold on for a moment. What did I do here? Tutorial, not that one. Git repos, create, select database. Something went wrong here. Give me a moment here.
Can you, instead of Git repos, if you select the time series data, I think that's where the repo is copied.
Oh, it's not, that was not what I was pointing to. Where was I
No,
pointing to?
your schema, okay, you're
Correct.
pointing to the right one.
Revenue series. Oh, let's see here. Now, for
It's
some
not
reason, I'm
showing.
not
Okay.
seeing it. Hold on, that's fine. Either way, so there are multiple ways to look at it. So we already saw that there was a Git repository. This could be with my VPN also. I think I'm on a VPN right now. So let's see here. Mm, create from Git repository. I'm choosing the particular database. I'm choosing the Git repos. This should be in revenue time series database. I think it should be in the Git repos. It's not showing. It's fine. So we can still do that. I was able to do that thing. I am thinking that it is a role-based issue. So let's see here. Come down here, create from a repository. I choose analytics demo. I choose, yeah, this doesn't have access to it. That's correct. So either ways, okay, never mind. What I'm going to do here is because that is a scenario, I'm just going to go ahead and create it here. I'm going to choose called as mm, tutorial. I have to change one thing here quickly. I want to go back here and change it to the role. I create a Streamlit application. I create a Streamlit applications. I'm going to say it as tutorial. I choose the schemas, revenue time series, wherever I want. I choose the warehouse where I want to run this on. Create it. So I have creating the streamer here. What happens? So now I come down here. We have the Streamlit application. So you can easily access it from there, but because we are not able to do that, I'm going to come down here and select that particular file what we have here. That is the analyst demo. So I just take this Control A, Control C. I take the complete app here and I come down here and I just copy paste it and I run it from here. So what I'm doing here is very simple here. Um, what I'm doing it here is very simple. What is that?
I think you copied the whole page, Ranjan. So if you go to the page, go to, if you can even do it from here. If you go to the stage over there
Yeah, I
on
got
the
it.
repo,
I got it.
on the repo, if you go to the,
That's okay. I got this. Sorry.
yeah,
So what I'm doing here is very simple here. It's running right now. It's asking for analysis question. So simply, I'm going ahead and defining it here. I'm importing the JSON files, and I come here and ask questions. In very simple short time, I was able to create this dashboard and access it. But simply, you're seeing here, I'm giving all the files. I'm giving the path where you want to access it. This is the API layer, and this is where you try to build the whole setup here. And I'll further show you what else do I have here. We give the selected semantic path, and I'm asking questions here. I asked a question here. What questions can I ask? So it gave me a sample informations. I can go ahead and ask questions on this thing. There are two things what's happening here. One, it's able to identify the questions for you. Second, it's able to give you the thought process behind it, SQL query, what it is. Third thing, it gives you an answer based on the questions what you've asked. I can go ahead and say, we verified queries. Are there any kind of verified queries? So we can see that if there are any verified queries, you can check that thing. Or if you want to use this as a verified query, you can also add it to the semantic layer. In simple, I'm asking some kind of questions and it's able to get me those answers here out of the box for me. I'm just going ahead and asking the next question here. Let's see what are we seeing. There is some kind of a error with this thing. That's fine. Role must change after every message. So that's good to know that it gives you kind of information or errors what you want to use. What have we done so far? What have we done so far? I got the data, I ingested the data into Snowflake, I created an application and I'm running on top of it. So let me take a step back here. Now I said that what have I created, right? We have the studio. So I come down to studio. We can see from here at the same time. I go to analyst. I have this role here. So let's see here. I create, there is something happening here. So I go to semantic model. That's where we created the semantic model. This is the revenue time series YAML file. And this is what Ved was mentioning. You can give custom instructions. You can give instructions like your company's fiscal year starts from February versus January. You can give information that if the business uses the term profit, they mean revenue. You can go ahead and give those kind of instructions, what you want to use. You can, this is basically the logical tables, what you're seeing here. It generated it out of the box and it's able to create it and query on top of it. Daily revenue, product revenue. So the system's able to identify and generate this for you. More importantly, it also creates the relationships. If you're joining between multiple tables, you can give conditions like how you're trying to generate, how you're joining between the product ID of daily revenue versus the product of the product ID. You can give some informations like what are the cumulative expenses, what is each month's lowest daily revenue. So you can give these kind of informations where you ask questions on. So I can just go ahead and ask. Tell me, my screen went off. Give me a moment here. Sorry, you can see my. I can go ahead and say, tell me the products available. I'm just randomly asking a question. This is the UI what you can get to. So I'm just asking all product unique lines. So it gives me questions. So I can say revenue by product line. I'm randomly asking questions on the data and you're able to query this. This is a very hard problem talking to your data. And right now, Snowflake is working towards how we can address these things and how we can provide those informations. So here is a simple example here. This is an interpretation of your questions. First, it identifies, it tells you that what are we interpreting and how we're thinking, what is the total revenue by product line. There are the five things. What is interesting is if you think this query is right, I can go ahead and say, if these answers are right, I can go ahead and say This is great. Go ahead and add it to the verified query. So it gives it to the verified query. Now, revenue by product line. If you see here, there's a new thing which is coming in. Next time a customer comes or user, business user comes and asks a question, what is my revenue by product line? You're able to get these answers out of the box. What we've done is this is a simple playground. Another important thing here is I think all suggestions. We provide suggestions based on the data what we have. We can provide you suggestions and we can provide you access to that. And that's what this can provides out of the box. Um, I can walk you through another one since we have another 15 minutes. But with, did you have anything specific to talk through?
No, please go ahead. We'll cover up in next 5 minutes. You can show.
Yeah, I'll take just 5 to 7 minutes. So what we did here is we in our scenario we created a Streamlit application. Um, More often than not, people might not want to create a Streamlit applications. What happens? You've already created this YAML file. So let me go over here and revenue times it is. I'm just going to take something called as agents. Um, I can go ahead and say save this files. So it gets saved, perfect. And then I come down here. I'll just take 5 minutes. This is another way of looking at it. I create an agent here. At simple thing, I create an agent. I may not have the permissions for that, but simple thing, I can come over here. I can choose that role, and let's see if I can create it here. Sample agent, and I can use this agent for creation of. I created the sample agent here. um, Edit it. I can give the information, what are the tools, what are the orchestrations. I can ask questions here. I can go ahead and add these things. So let's see, this is semantic model. So I come down to Cortex Analyst, revenue time series. Uh, the reason being here is I do not,
You need to select the semantic model file. Yeah.
yes, raw data. I have this YAML file here. So I can give a friendly name. I can just say it as querying engine. I just give it a querying engine, generate with Cortex. Um, you can give this information, generate with Cortex. I just give it a Cortex to generate the description here. So you can leverage all of these things. Once I do that, I can go ahead and say, add it here. I could have just given a simple agent description too. Um, okay, it generated the whole thing. What is the database? It's able to query those informations out of the box and it provide you. What is the database? What is the dimension list of columns? I go ahead and say add it here. So I'm just going to go ahead and say I've added this thing called as querying engine. And from here, I come down to Snowflake Intelligence quickly. This is also another engine for you to ask questions on top of. So I can go ahead and say sample. So I can go to here. It's called a sample was a thing querying engine. I can ask questions here. Give me product by region sales. I'm just asking a question. Interesting thing here is this, since we already have it, it's able to give you the way how it analyzes it, how it's thinking. Querying data, joining daily revenue with the product and region tables, aggregating revenue by product and region. It's able to try test this out in less than 5 minutes. I'm able to run this and simply it analyzes the question and it generates the answer for you. It takes care of what is the agent, and more importantly, if you want to access connecting through your cloud or other systems, you can also do that to connect to this agent and access it from there. So this is another way of looking at things, how you can query the data and how you can access it while this queries or while this analyzes it. Let me come down here. I'm happy to address any questions meanwhile we have here. What I'm trying to show you here is also very interesting. I've just added the query engine, but if you have unstructured sources, you can also connect to unstructured sources. You can also connect to custom tools. If you want to send some kind of a emails happening, you can also analyze that and you can send that informations. So it said that its thinking is completed now. It's trying to complete or ask questions on top of that and get you back the answers on there. What are the kinds of information? It tells me what are the agents I have, what are the kinds of data I do have here. I can typically get all these informations available. Yeah, so there are multiple ways how you can query the data and how you can access these informations. One other thing I think which I did not walk you through also was when I went to Cortex Analyst and when I searched on this thing, there is something called as monitoring here. This is the same place where I came here. It gives me that what are the questions I'm asking and where is this questions coming from. So it gives me, you have a place where you can monitor or you can track the kind of questions asked by the team. So the system is able to identify it and it can give it to you. So that's also possible with monitoring here. So it tells me that what was the question, tell me about the product. So what was the information? So revenue by product by region. So it gives me all the information what has been asked and I can quickly get those answers. Anything I missed out with here?
No, I think we're good. I think the part which you covered, which was one thing which we highlighted, that Cortex takes feedback in. So we have done that verified query thing. That something is of inbuilt features which comes like which is called a Cortex Analyst verified query repository system suggestion, where a query, if it is being used multiple times, it asked to feedback to the semantic layer again, saying that this query has been asked 100 times. Same sample, same questions have been asked, and the same query has been generated. And if the user verifies it, that comes as part of the suggestion, which is coming on the screen as a review now. So you review it and say, okay, yes, this query is verified. This gives accurate results, and this helps to enhance the accuracy on the very high level. So
Right.
query suggestions are basically comes in the VQR is like high frequency queries. Similar queries appears often, or a no existing verified query covers this question yet. So this is a new question which has been asked. None of the verified query that also comes as part of the suggestion. So that helps a lot on this. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I
I was
think
trying to see if I can get something out here, but either ways, it's taking a little longer. It's because of my VPN, I believe. But I think at a high level, we were able to build these applications. You can ask questions on top of it and how you can access this data available out of the box. What we would want you to do is try it out, test it out, and see how this works. We're happy to dive into the details of that. Over to you, Ved. If you
yeah,
want to go through further things over
yeah,
here.
I will send a request.
I'm going
I
to stop sharing
yeah.
now, please.
But yeah, so thanks. So this is what we were talking about, just Cortex Analyst verified queries and monitoring, which you already seen that Cortex Analyst continuously logs user interaction to help administer and improve the quality and accuracy. The logs are stored in as an event table for a Snowflake for visibility, and it updates like every 1 or 2 minutes. There is a short delay for that. It includes information like user who asked the question text, the generated SQL, error and warnings, and request and response bodies, plus the metadata as well. This is the same UI which Ranjan showed us in his demo. Coming to this, querying the log SQL, if you want to see that what has been done, you can, one is the through this UI, which we saw it in the previous slide over here. And the next one is that you can directly go and query this particular table, a Cortex Analyst request, and you can get for that particular model or view type all the queries which has been executed. I think with this we will like to conclude and we'll open the floor for any questions we have and any
There's
kind of
one
question.
last thing which I want to quickly share, if you can
Yes,
stop sharing once,
yes,
and then we'll
sure.
come back to this page. I went back and I tried to see what was happening there, and I just asked some questions here saying, based on the data, tell me about the data. It says the way how it thinks, understanding, planning the next steps, what are the data sets it's validating. It comes back with the information here. It comes back with a very high level information. If you put any kind of your information, it could be in, if you have your data, customer data perfect, or your data is perfect, but in general, I'm just going to go ahead and ask questions saying, tell me about the information about the data. It gave me information. What are the daily revenue data has, cost of goods sold, product information, geographical region, key features, data structures. So you can choose what it is and how it can be used. One other thing which I did not walk you through is when I come down to agents, we spoke that thing quite a lot about that, but which we did not talk much about it. If I go to tools here, this is where I've chosen this thing. You can choose the models. You can choose what models do you want to run this on. If you want to let system do itself, it probably chooses Claude Force on it, but you can choose either it could be GPT-5, GPT 4.1. So all of those things is possible. And one other thing is you can also give the role-based access. You don't have to give access to everybody, everything. You can choose who gets access to this kind of information and how they use it. So all of these things, what we've showed in the last 30, 45 minutes has been a role-based control. You can identify, you can choose, and you can select who gets access to these informations and how you can see that. That's all I wanted to share. Go ahead, Ved, you can share it back and we can open it up for questions. The team,
Yeah.
I think.
So open up for questions. So one big thing which we saw in this whole demo was that talk to your data. It has gone simple. It has been a complex process. Yes, accuracy is something which we have to work. It's not a first in one shot goal which has been done. It has to iterate on. We iterate small, we go big, we make the semantic layer much and much more smarter. The smarter and the most up-to-date semantic layer, it is the more the accuracy of the data. It solves those big old traditional BI problem where the end user should have been an expert of a SQL in order to write. They can still go and just have a Snowflake intelligence, the new setup which is coming up from Snowflake, use that, or have a Streamlit app which is running uh, on a Snowflake, and we can just see this whole process
Absolutely.
of accessing. So you don't have to have any user interface, and Streamlit app itself is a good app user interface where user can ask all the questions, and that solves a huge problem. And yeah, that would be all I would like to conclude. And yes, this is us. If you need to post this talk also and tutorial also, you want to interact and want to ask question and have any feedback, please scan our QR codes. It'll take you to LinkedIn page, and yes, you can ask the question over there.
Absolutely.
And the floor is open for question. If do we have any question, then yes, we're happy to take it. Thank you. Either everyone understood everything, we were so clear, or it is a lot has to be tested. So please try the lab. That would be a recommendation already shared. The slides will be shared as well. Please try the lab. If you see anything, then yes, would be done. Katrina, over to you.
Thank you so much for an interesting presentation. That's all from Stream 3. Thank you for being with us today, and we hope you learned a lot. See you.
Hey, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Tomorrow.
Bye.
Team.